Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping right in, going deep into the defensive blueprints, you could say, of modern organizations.
That's right.
We're really zeroing in on the cutting edge of proactive security. Things like customized security audits and penetration testing,
Yeah.
pen tests. That's what defines reliable defense today.
Exactly. And, for anyone listening who needs a kind of strategic shortcut into how top organizations stay confident about their security, this is pretty much the roadmap.
Okay.
We're not just going to define what a pen test is. We're really looking at the strategy behind using these ethical hacking services effectively.
Right, because it's not just about running some quick automated scan anymore and, ticking a
No,
box.
definitely not.
A modern successful penetration test has to be, well, surgical, right? So what's the core strategic idea guiding these customized audits?
It really boils down to adaptability. I mean, the goal is always the same: make the defenses better, but the process, that has to be totally tailored. It depends on the organization's unique risk profile, their specific security goals. It's a living thing, security defense today, not just some static checklist.
Okay, that makes sense. But it immediately brings up the question of scale, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
I mean, how does that adaptability actually work when you compare, say, a small, scrappy startup with a huge global company? Their risks are worlds apart.
Yeah, and that's where the strategy really shifts, quite dramatically, actually. For a big enterprise, they usually want flexibility to scope the test very precisely.
Huh.
They often know, exactly which system or maybe which API needs that really intense look. It's all a surgical selection, getting deep.
Okay. But what about the startup, the early stage company? Maybe they're still building their first product, kind of bootstrapping their security budget. They can't just order up an enterprise level audit.
No, exactly. And for them, the key idea is what we call a progressive security testing framework.
Progressive. Okay.
Yeah. So instead of one massive upfront cost, the testing framework actually evolves with the company.
Ah.
The depth, the scope, it scales up right alongside the company's growth, its user base, its regulatory needs as they increase. It makes sure security isn't just seen as an expense, but as this layer that matures right with the business itself.
That makes a lot of sense, that progressive approach. But let's talk practicalities. If I'm, commissioning one of these audits, how do I make sure I'm getting the maximum strategic bang for my buck, not just some generic report?
Right. Well, you've got to demand a balanced approach.
Uh-huh.
I think the number one thing here is mixing automated tools with manual testing.
Okay.
Automated scans are fast, sure, but they mostly catch the known stuff, the low-hanging fruit.
Right, the usual suspects.
Exactly. The real strategic edge. That comes from the manual layer. That's where the expert ethical hackers dig in. They find the business logic flaws or maybe complex vulnerabilities chained together that scanners they just completely miss them.
So the human element, the expert eye, that's the real differentiator strategically.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
And for the best results, that expertise needs to come with complete transparency while they're working. Consistent support, too.
Mm-hmm.
And reporting that you can actually use immediately. The reports, yeah, they need that executive summary for the bosses.
Of course.
But crucially, they must have the deep technical details and, concrete steps for fixing things that the engineering teams need.
That definitely sets a high bar for how it's done.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the operational landscape. You mentioned we identified 4 key battlegrounds where these ethical hackers tend to focus. Where are the weak spots usually hiding these days?
Yeah, we can kind of group the vulnerabilities into 4 critical zones. These pretty much cover the whole modern digital footprint, starting with the application layer.
Okay, area 1, web applications. This feels like the front door, right?
Absolutely. It's often the most exposed part.
Yeah.
And the testing scope here has to be full stack.
Full stack, meaning?
Meaning everything. Traditional web apps, mobile apps, internal apps, and increasingly the APIs that drive them all.
Gotcha.
And the standard here, the benchmark, is sticking to the gold standards of app security. We're talking about methodologies like OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project.
This OWASP, heard of it.
Right. It defines the top, most common application vulnerabilities. So this isn't just, running some tool. It's methodically checking against a really robust, community-vetted framework.
Okay. So moving out from the app itself, we hit area 2, external networks. What's the strategic goal with testing those?
This is all about checking your perimeter defenses, your walls, basically.
Right.
External testing looks at systems that are directly facing the internet. The whole idea is to simulate a real-world attacker, someone opportunistic coming from outside your organization.
Okay.
It gives you this vital, sort of unfiltered look at how attractive you are to attackers and how easy it might be for them to get in from the outside.
And then the flip side, which feels like it's become much more critical lately, Area 3, internal networks. This is like simulating what happens after a breach, or maybe the damage an insider could do.
This is, yeah, arguably where defense strategy has shifted the most. Internal network testing simulates an attack after someone's already gotten initial access.
How so?
Well, maybe through stolen employee credentials or a phishing attack worked, something like that. The whole perspective changes.
Okay.
Now you're focused on, can they move sideways? Can they escalate their privileges? Can they find vulnerabilities inside that could lead to, massive data theft or, the big one, ransomware encrypting everything?
Right, ransomware, that's the nightmare scenario.
Exactly. It's testing your internal segmentation and how resilient you are after that initial compromise happens.
Okay, makes sense. And finally, Area 4, maybe the most complex one now, cloud services. Why does testing the cloud need such a different approach compared to traditional network defense?
Well, because the whole idea of a neat network perimeter kind of dissolves in the cloud. Cloud security depends so much on getting the configuration right and really understanding that shared responsibility model. What's the provider's job? What's yours?
Okay.
We often see issues with misconfigured infrastructure as code. The templates that build modern cloud setups, or flaws in identity and access management. Who can access what?
So it's less about patching a specific server and more about making absolutely sure the access rules, the policies, are airtight.
That's a huge part of it, yes.
Yeah.
Comprehensive cloud pen testing needs real expertise across the major platforms, AWS, GCP, Azure.
Right.
And it gets even more complex, exponentially so, with multi-cloud setups or maybe custom SaaS applications hosted in the cloud. You just can't assume the cloud provider is handling all your data security.
Yeah.
You are responsible for configuring those security controls correctly.
That definitely covers the what and the where. So now, let's talk about the who. Given how deep the technical skills need to be across those 4 areas, what kind of ethical hacker do you actually need? We need, provable expertise, not just someone calling themselves a hacker.
Yeah, the credibility of the testing team is directly linked to the value you get from the audit. It's that simple.
Okay.
You need people who are demonstrable security researchers. The source material we looked at, it highlights teams who've contributed hundreds of verifiable CVEs.
ECAs.
Common vulnerabilities and exposures. It means they've actually found and documented new vulnerabilities that the whole industry then needs to patch.
Wow, okay. That's significant.
It is. And they've also got public thank yous from Fortune 500 companies from their responsible disclosure programs. That's real, tangible impact, not just theoretical knowledge.
And looking at the team itself, the researchers mentioned in our sources, they have people based in the U.S. and the Netherlands. What about all those certifications you hear about? OSCP, CISSP, CEH. What do those actually tell a client?
They tell you different things, actually.
Yeah.
They signify specialized skills, often very hands-on ability versus just theory. So if you see something like OSCP, Offensive Security Certified Professional, or OSCE, that usually points to someone who can actually perform complex manual attacks in a controlled lab environment. They can do it.
Right, the practical skills.
Exactly. Contrast that with something like CISSP, which often signals more expertise in the governance side, risk management, policy.
Yeah. Okay, different focus.
Yeah. And the best teams, they usually have both. They've got the hands-on attackers and the governance folks who can translate the findings into those really actionable reports we talked about.
Okay, so this is where that elite expertise really connects to ensuring a reliable outcome, right? How do they make sure they get consistent, high-quality results every single time, whether it's a simple web app or a super complex Azure setup?
Methodology. That's the anchor.
Methodology.
Yep. Quality assurance is basically locked in by sticking to recognized global standards, specifically OSSP, which we mentioned for application flaws,
Right.
and OSSTMM. That's the Open Source Security Testing Methodology Manual.
OSSTMM. Okay, what does that one actually cover?
Think of OSTMM as the operational rulebook for the whole engagement.
Okay.
It standardizes the scoping, the ethics involved, the reporting process, everything from start to finish. So when a firm follows both OWASP for the technical checks and OSTMM for the process management,
Then you get
guaranteed quality assurance, consistency, and compliance. The end result is an assessment that's genuinely audit-ready, You can take it to regulators, you can defend it.
Speaking of regulators, let's connect this expert-driven, standardized testing directly to those compliance needs. What are some of the really high-stakes requirements these kinds of audits help meet?
Well, the two big ones highlighted are PCI DSS and IPA.
Okay, PCI DSS payment cards.
Right. For PCI DSS, compliance actually mandates external and internal penetration testing at least once a year, or anytime there's a significant change to the systems handling cardholder data.
That's strict.
It is. So an expert team doesn't just run the test. They guide the company through the whole process, scoping it right, understanding the specific rules like PCI DSS requirement 11.3, and then executing the test properly to make sure they pass.
And the stakes there are huge, right? If you fail PCI compliance.
Oh, yeah. Massive fines. Or you could even lose the ability to process credit cards altogether. It's serious business.
Definitely.
And then you've got high pay compliance. That's all about protected health information, PHI.
Patient data.
Exactly. And given how sensitive that data is and the regulatory heat around it, the audits have to specifically target the systems where PHI is stored or transmitted.
Makes sense.
So again, the experts have to work really closely with the organization on scoping, making sure the high PK compliant pen tests are executed correctly. That often means deep dives into encryption methods and access control integrity.
So the real difference maker is that blend of knowing the specific regulation inside out and having the technical chops to test against it properly.
You got it. Specialized knowledge plus specialized execution.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up the value side of things, we looked at some customer feedback. What did these real companies say was the most impactful part of this detailed manual testing approach?
Well, the testimonials really back up the value of that human manual layer we've been talking about.
Yeah.
The CTO of private jet charter company, for example, specifically mentioned finding weaknesses they didn't know existed.
Ah, so finding the unknown unknown.
Exactly. It shows the pen test went way beyond just the obvious flaws and found something novel, something unexpected.
And it's not just about finding the problems, right? It's about fixing them. A director of IT at a national store chain pointed out the delivery of comprehensive reports and actionable recommendations.
Right. And that's the key difference, isn't it? Between just getting a list of bugs versus getting a strategic plan to actually improve your security.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one more. The CEO of a North American association emphasized that the services gave them invaluable insights and, crucially, the confidence to strengthen their defenses.
Confidence, that's a big one.
In today's threat landscape, confidence built on solid, validated, expert-driven security. That's pretty much the ultimate measure of value, I'd say.
So we've really covered a lot of ground here. Everything from, why testing strategies need to be customized for different companies to the specific certifications that mark out an elite ethical hacker and the standards like OSTMM that guarantee a reliable result. So what does this all really boil down to for you, the listener?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway is that real cybersecurity defense today needs that adaptable, expert-driven approach. And it fundamentally relies on that manual scrutiny, the human expertise finding the things that automated tools just won't catch.
Right. That manual piece is critical.
And we saw that the structure, the quality, it's guaranteed by using established standards like OWASP and OSSTMM. Those methodologies ensure consistency, make it audit ready.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. In pretty much any high-stakes field you can think of, software development, maybe financial reporting, or like we discussed today, cybersecurity, the difference between just a quick superficial check and a truly reliable audit-ready result. It often comes down entirely to sticking to structured, standardized methodologies.
That's a great point.
So think about it. How often are the OWASPs or the OSTMMs of your own core area of knowledge being strictly followed? And maybe more importantly, what risks are you actually running if they aren't?
Something to consider. Until next time, stay curious and, prioritize those standards.